Hi, I'm Jbrook and I'm a hobbyist game developer. If you know me only from the devlog of my latest project, you might have noticed mentions of my previous commercial game, Skellies Ain't Scary. For those who are not aware, the game is a 1-bit roguelike with bullet hell elements. It was released in April of this year and was the first game I ever released onto Steam. Now that so much time has passed since its release, I've had a lot of time to really process the entire journey from start to end, and I felt like it would be a nice close on that time of my life to make a video on how I developed my first game and what I've learned from it. Without further ado, let's get into it. First things first, I figured the thing most people are interested in is probably the amount of money I made. As of the time of writing the script, I have made a total of 269 USD from the game. From that amount, I've collected roughly 100 USD. The rest of the money has been used to pay taxes, transaction fees, refunds, etc., or is currently being held by Steam. This performance emerged from the game launching at a wishlist count of 497 and an abysmally low conversion rate of only 4%, meaning of all the people that wishlisted the game, only 4% of them actually bought it. For comparison, the expected conversion rate is typically 20% on Steam, but this is calculated from my current amount of wishlist, which shot up to 1,100 since release, which is almost double. If we take the current amount of conversion sales and divide that by the wishlist count at launch, we get a more accurate picture of the conversion rate of 10%, which is still pretty bad. I have no explanation as to why this is, but I can tell you for sure the game did not do well financially at all. Of the small budget of 200 USD I allotted for this game, I only made back 100, so I'm at a 50% loss. All that to say, my first release went very horribly in financial terms. On the other hand, I think the game was a huge success, as the project was not released with the intention of making bank, but rather just a goal for myself to finally finish a big commercial project. In that sense, I've achieved it completely. Having said that, I think it's still a good idea to analyze what actually went wrong with the game's financial performance. I have considered this a lot over the past few months, and I think it really boils down to two things: marketing and art. For marketing, I basically did nothing for Skellies Ain't Scary during the majority of its development. I posted a lot on Twitter, occasionally Reddit, and had a small Discord server of about 50 members. But as I found out, Twitter is mostly dominated by other creatives, so I was essentially selling my game to other game developers trying to sell me their game. Twitter really only works when you have an extremely large following, and even then I hear the conversion to actual engagement with your game is abysmally small. It's a bit better on Reddit as there are typically more players there than developers, but most subreddits don't let developers freely advertise for very obvious reasons, and the consensus on their paid advertisement services are generally that they are pretty pointless. My Discord ended up turning the most sales, but I also gave out a lot of keys to many of the members as thanks for playtesting or otherwise, so I didn't actually make as much as I could have from there. The things I found the most effective though were influencers and Steam festivals. My wishlist count shot up tremendously, as you can see here, during the Steam Next Fest event, and after reaching out to many different YouTubers, I managed to get Olexa to cover the game after release. You can see that the sales went up quite a bit here too after the release of his video. In the end though, what the game really lacked was a proper hook. I made Skellies Ain't Scary knowing the game had absolutely close to no unique ideas. It's a pretty milquetoast roguelike 2D shooter as things go, and for marketing, a marketable hook is what really boosts your game's reputation. As for art, I touched on this a little on my devlog for my new project, but essentially, customers on Steam very much judge books by their covers. Look up any marketing guide for Steam and you'll hear the same. Things like capsule art, trailers, store pages, and the visual design of the game all help tremendously to sell a person on whether or not to buy a game. Unfortunately, my art skills are pretty bad, and to make up for that, I resorted to a very minimalist art style that lets me put more focus on making other aspects of the game. Productivity-wise, this was a great decision because it saved me from having to spend a ton of time on art, and let me actually work on parts of the game that I found more gratifying to work on. Had I decided to go for a more complex art style, I very much believe it would have doubled or maybe even tripled development time, and in the end made the game look even worse. But as I said, this didn't sell well on Steam. Although I think the 1-bit art style wasn't the entire reason for the game's financial downfall, it didn't help much either. Not to mention, I was trying not to go over budget, and instead of commissioning artists with actual experience at making Steam capsule art, I just got a friend to do everything for me at a lower price. In the end, you get what you pay for, and we ended up coming out with not so stellar capsule art because we were working in a rush. All in all, the game's visual aspects absolutely made the game suffer in terms of first impressions on the marketplace. Despite all of that, was it possible for the game to still succeed financially and go over a pitiful 4 reviews? Personally, I didn't believe so, but someone did. About 5 months before the game's release, I was contacted by a publishing company based in Their representative claimed that they were an up-and-coming publishing company looking for smaller projects that they could help launch quickly to build up their reputation. After I did some preliminary research and got past my suspicions, I started having discussions with them. Apparently, they had found my post on Twitter and thought I would be a good fit for them, which was pretty surprising considering their previous projects included extremely high-resolution 3D games and beautifully illustrated 2D games. For them to reach out to me over this was flattering to say the least. I was very interested in working with them, to be very blunt. They were proposing extremely tempting offers for me, including translation work for the game out to 15 languages, from Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and even to Spanish. Plus, there were talks about them entirely handling the porting of the game to Nintendo Switch, as well as them basically taking over my job in the marketing department, which was something I was entirely ready to abdicate. The revenue share split they proposed was also pretty decent and seemed like somewhat industry standard from the research that I did. After a ton of back and forth with them, I realized I had two choices moving forward. If I decided to sign a contract with them, I was entertaining the possibility of my first commercial project being a relative financial success, entry into the console market, and even setting up my own company to do the dealings through before even reaching the age of 18, all of which seemed very appealing to me. In exchange, I would have to continue working on the project for up to 5 more months, adding a ton of localization-related code, bug fixes, possible gameplay changes, and especially going through all the hassles of setting up a company for myself, which was a whole other ordeal financially. On the other hand, I could reject them, release the game earlier to an extremely likely financial failure, but in doing so save myself not only a sizable amount of money from setting up the company, but also from having to work months more on a project that had been 1.5 years overdue in development, and something I was emotionally and physically burnt out on. When you factor in the fact that this was a few weeks before some huge college exams for me, the choice I was going to make was very apparent. So I hit the release button on a Saturday morning and things turned out as you know it now. The journey was not perfect and it was exhausting more than anything, but I'm still really glad to have finished my first ever commercial project. Not only was I able to dip my toes into the world of publishers and set a baseline of what to expect in the future, I also learned invaluable lessons in marketing, game design, programming, art and time management, and not to mention the invaluable experience of dealing with Steamworks. The best part of it all is that Skellies Ain't Scary is legitimately the first game that has taken me longer than a month to complete. Before it, I was making games pretty much only for game jams, and they were all relatively small games finished in a weekend or maybe a month. So this project was a huge departure from that, and has given me the confidence to really embark on my current project with bigger ambitions. So finally, I want to thank everyone who helped me get the game to where it is today. I'm very grateful to the mods on my server who have been pretty much there since day one, as well as the volunteer playtesters who helped me polish up the game shortly before release, and everyone who bought the game. But most importantly, my best friend who helped me with a lot of the game's key art, and the wonderful composer Maximus who even provided the game with many free tracks because he really believed in the project. Sincerely, thank you to both of you. Thank you for watching, and if you are interested in picking up the game, this video should be released while the game is 50% off, so do check it out.